Hi, welcome to Equity Guru. Today we're talking to Saga Metals, a new company on the exchange. CEO has been very busy. Mike, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Mike Stier, CEO and Director of Saga Metals. Really excited to be here today and discuss our four projects and our upcoming IPO.
So tell us about Saga. I always like to start with what's the big differentiator between Saga and the next 100 companies?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think a lot of the difference between us and other companies is that we do have a critical minerals focus across numerous critical minerals that actually have an intersection with each other, kind of downstream towards what the real world applications are. And so we have our primary focus is our uranium project. We also have lithium, titanium, vanadium, and then iron ore. So you kind of have a multitude of opportunities with Saga, and I think that that's going to bode well in the future.
And how does that break itself down on the actual rock face?
Sorry.
How does that look on the at the project level?
Oh, okay. So Double Mer, as an example, is our flagship main listing asset. That project is the one that we're going to move forward with the most exploration work coming this summer and then heading into a drill program in the fall. The Legacy Lithium project will have some work conducted on it this summer as well. And then our Radar Titanium Vanadium project and our Iron Ore project will have claim maintenance conducted on them over this summer so that we can renew the licenses coming next year. So to summarize, majority of the funds are going to go into the Double Mer Uranium project heading into this campaign. But for the next 6 to 9 months, we're going to have tons of activity, tons of news across all four of these projects.
So a lot of times, mineral explorers will struggle with multiple projects. Generally the focus is to pick one or the other. But you've got two projects here that both have compliant 43101s attached to them, so you're already ahead of most companies that are out there. Is there any thinking that you'll zero in on one, or can you walk and chew bubblegum at the same time?
Yeah, I think we can walk and chew at the same time. We are going to move forward, as I mentioned, with the majority into the Double Mer Uranium asset. However, we are bringing in a major partner into our Legacy Lithium project, Rio Tinto, that will make us a little bit more passive on half of our project in the James Bay region. And so we can allow them to move forward with that project while we focus on the uranium asset. And then we kind of have our Amaro project, which is our contingency moving forward, that we can kind of slowly move along as we get reports and news from Rio in terms of the success that they're having on our joint ground in that area.
Got it. Tell us a little bit about your background before you came to Saga.
Yeah, so I've spent a lot of time in the capital markets. I was with CIBC for a number of years. I was with a private equity company in Vancouver for a number of years after that. And more recently, probably for the last 6 or 7 years, I've spent in executive level roles or directorship roles, either helping companies that already exist go public or navigate the public markets, or I've helped create companies from scratch and then walk them through the private stage and prep for going public and then launch an IPO and then navigate and help in the public markets after that. So
So you've got the contacts, you've got the knowledge, you've been
yeah,
there,
I,
done
I
that.
absolutely, and I think Michael Garrigan's our chief geological officer. He comes with 15 years of experience as a field geologist. He grew up in a family of geologists. He's seen this since he was an infant. He knows what it takes to move a project from point A to point B. And I think we complement each other extremely well. My understanding of the capital markets, his understanding of the rocks, and I think it makes for a perfect fit for a public company.
Let's talk about your jurisdictions here. Like Quebec obviously loves themselves a mining project, but Newfoundland and Labrador is starting to really pick up some steam to the east. What's your feeling on working in that part of Canada?
Yeah, I mean, we're fortunate to be in both of those jurisdictions. They are ranked 1 and 2 from the Fraser Institute, and then I believe four and eight on the global scale. And so, being in Labrador, I mean, it's just a province in general that has been overlooked from an exploration standpoint for really decades. There's only been two rushes that province has seen in its history. One being the Voisey's Bay rush in the '90s, and then the uranium rush in the kind of mid 2000s. And so, we've met with government officials within Newfoundland and Labrador. They're extremely excited to have projects move forward and see us in there with multiple projects. We're super excited to be there. This is a province that has the same Archean rocks as Ontario and Quebec, and it just has not had the level of exploration. It doesn't have the number of mines that those other provinces have, and for no good reason other than the fact that it's just been overlooked. And so, the old adage is you find a mine next to another mine, and quite honestly, we think that Labrador has a lot of the right mineralogy and geology to host suitable mines. And so we're excited to be there, and we've got three great projects in that province of merit, and we're looking forward to moving them through the exploration stage.
It seems like that project has moved along through stages pretty quickly. Is that partly down to government agreeability?
Sorry, our project, our
Yeah.
Double Mer project. Yeah, I mean, so a little bit of the history on the Double Mer uranium project is actually was previously owned by another company from 2006 to 2008. Not specifically our claim block, but we've staked around the area in which Silver Spruce owned it back during that time, and so they actually spent upwards of $3 to $4 million on that property during that period. They had other uranium projects in Labrador as well, and so there was a massive influx of funding into uranium during that period of time. And so, what had occurred in 2008 was the Labrador and Newfoundland government put a moratorium on uranium, so that they can just take a pause and really suss out how they wanted to handle uranium within their province. Obviously, confer with local communities and just have those proper discussions, just like every other province across the country. That lifted in 2011, and then Fukushima obviously occurred. Uranium prices hit rock bottom, and so as a company, they had to pivot. They moved on to other things, and so this, just like a lot of other projects, a lot of other geological settings in that province, have just sat there, untouched for the last decade. And so we were able to do our due diligence in the area, looking for just with our titanium vanadium project, we were scoping out other areas, and we were able to uncover what was happening geologically on the Double Mer Inlet, and were able to identify what Silver Spruce had done back in '06 to '08, which was extremely high resolution magnetics, as well as uranium, potassium, thorium count radiometrics. They confirmed a 14-kilometer trend with 182 rock samples. So very encouraging data that's come out of there that we've had the benefit of being able to comb over and put together our forthcoming program. So we're quite excited. Getting into any kind of drill program in the future, we don't have to do exploratory drilling. We already know where the trend line is. If you take a look at our maps that we have either on our website, sagametals.com, or a corporate presentation, you'll see the quite obvious trend that's occurring hosted within our property there. And so, we can get out and we can start testing that trend right away. And so we'll go out there with an initial field program. Mike, our geologist, wants to do some structural mapping and things like that to uncover exactly where we want to put the drill rigs. But otherwise, we're ready to go. It's drill ready property.
Let's talk about titanium and vanadium. Obviously, there's a lot more attention, generally speaking, commodity wise, on uranium at the present. Lithium's had a moment and then sort of fallen away, but titanium and vanadium sort of flies under the radar.
Yeah, absolutely. Titanium is just one of those things. It's not really listed on any kind of commodity exchange, so a lot of people just don't really understand it from a public standpoint. But it's something that's used in numerous products across the globe. You've probably already used one today that contains titanium oxide or something of that nature. And so vanadium, we think, is something that is going to have its day in the sun here. What people may not understand or realize is that when you find an ore body containing titanium, vanadium is just a natural byproduct. They go hand in hand. So, you know, we're quite fortunate that we're in a geological setting that, as my geologist would say, is a textbook layered mafic intrusion. We're already seeing fantastic results in terms of the assays that we got back from our 10-day program last summer. And, you know, when I had mentioned earlier in this discussion that we had critical minerals that intersected with each other in real world applications, that's where vanadium comes into play. There's crossover with lithium ion batteries, vanadium redox battery. There is the application of utilizing vanadium in nuclear reactors. It's a very stable metal. So it has tons of applications. It has military applications, aerospace applications. The list is essentially endless from what it means from a critical mineral standpoint and how vital it can be to our government and what we need as a society. So we're looking forward in terms of moving it forward. And like I said, I think a couple years down the line, it's a project that people will realize its value.
Now, in terms of realizing value, there's a lot of companies that have, let's say, fallen away from lithium over the last couple of years for a variety of reasons, not the smallest of which is the number of them that weren't really looking for it in the first place. Um, Coming public now, with lithium being a reasonably large part of your deal, uh, I'm guessing that there would have been some people saying, "Why don't we hold off for a few months?"
In terms of investing in our company because
Just,
of
I
the
mean,
lithium
just like,
asset.
waiting for it to be the flavor of the month again.
Yeah, I mean, I think that anyone that's really following the lithium space understands that it's having a little bit of a difficult time here on the short term, but you know, medium to long term prospects are still extremely in favor for lithium. The demand is certainly there; it's not going anywhere. If we really want to, as a globe, as all the countries around the world really want to make this green energy shift, it's still going to play a critical role in that. I think we've already seen the bottom occur probably about a month ago, and things are looking up. And so, you know, we think that as a company, bringing in a partner like Rio Tinto really puts us in a great spot to be able to bring undiluted capital to the company. We're obviously a young company just trying to develop, and so having a major partner like that adds a lot of credibility. And you know, if they have interest in our project, I think that speaks to the work that Mike Garrigan and his team did last summer, and just what we can really push this forward. And so, you know, they'll work the property this summer, and then you know, continuing forward as per the option agreement. You know, but it brings up to $1.7 million in exploration activity over the next 20 months, which is guaranteed. Over the next 4 years, containing that 20 months, they have to spend upwards of 9.5 million Canadian. And then 5 years after that, in the second stage of the option, is another $34 million Canadian. So undiluted capital in terms of being able to push the envelope and build shareholder value in the percentage that we would still have, I think is a great way of hedging our bets and allowing us to focus on our Double Mer uranium project.
For sure. I mean, if Rio Tinto says that the due diligence on you guys is done, they certainly do a lot better DD than I do, or any retail investor does.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, absolutely.
So let's talk briefly about your experience in taking a company public. I think a lot of people sort of look at it as something that's a relatively simple, fill in a few forms, get a few investors down, and away you go. But the reality is something very different. Like, how long have you been going through this process?
Uh, to be honest, like you kind of start it when you incorporate the company right from the beginning. I mean, we always knew we were going to take Saga public. It's just you start that right from incorporation. So we did that back in January 2023. So right away with your incorporation documents, you're already setting up your incorporation for that exact purpose, for how to intake money at different levels from investors. And then you just have to build together the team around it, right? You have to have your CFO with IFRS, background. You have to have your securities lawyer. You got to bring your auditor. You got to know the timing of everything. You have to do your audits and your reviews. And if you miss one step, um, in a sequence of five, you're going to mess up your timing for the whole thing. So yes, I agree with you. It seems on the surface that maybe it's a simple process. Hundreds of companies go public all the time, maybe not as many recently, just given the kind of the downturn. But whether it's an RTO or an IPO, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, and it's definitely a lot of work. And add obviously fundraising into that, and building a company in the background to make sure that you're constantly creating value for your shareholders. It's a lot of work for sure.
What was the decision-making process behind going IPO versus RTO?
You know, right from the beginning when we incorporated Saga, we've just kind of had the mandate to make sure that we can do the proper level of due diligence in terms of our property acquisition and keeping our cap table as tight as possible. And I think we've done a fantastic job doing that. We only have about 20 million shares outstanding with the four projects that we have. A lot of times you have to give out millions and millions of shares to prospectors and things like that. I think that we've done a great job in terms of keeping that to the proper level. I think the prospectors have gotten great value for the projects that we picked up, and our shareholders have gotten great value in terms of the structure that we've been able to put together. And so, looking at doing an RTO versus an IPO, it's just the difference between keeping it clean, right? Like we've got a good shareholder base. We don't really need to bring in an existing shell. Sometimes they come with extra baggage that you just don't really need, and you
Mhm.
still have to raise the money, right? So we're going to go out and we're going to raise the money, and we don't have to tack on another 4 or 5, 6 million shares that weren't a part of building this company to date. So
Right.
I think that's important.
So strong hands from the outset.
Absolutely.
It's an interesting thing to see the exchange right now where so few companies actually are rolling out. It seems to be everyone's waiting for the good times to come before they drop their favorite projects. But I always kind of figured that going against that gives you a lot more attention from people. If you can roll out during times where that are seen as weak and hold your own, then you've really achieved something.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you for sure. I think that in the last couple months, we've definitely seen an uptick in venture capital stories, and I think the market's getting hungry for a quality company with quality projects that's trying to do all the right things, and that's exactly what we're trying to do. And I think that people are starting to see that. We've been having meetings, for the IPO, doing a bit of a roadshow here, and the reception's been fantastic, and I think it's quite validating for sure.
There's definitely a lot of companies out there that are, let's say, they might be called lifestyle CEOs, or they might be called permanent money raisers. But the companies that come out with 43101s already in the bag, with partners like Rio Tinto already in the bag, with multiple metals. So you got a man on every base at the start of the game. I feel like that's a pretty strong launching point.
Yeah, absolutely it is. Mike and I have been building this company for probably the last couple of years now. Obviously, we began doing our due diligence on a few different projects before we actually formally incorporated the company. So it takes a little bit of legwork with respect to that. But yeah, you know what? We have a mandate internally in terms of the different critical minerals we want to go after, and we have a mandate in terms of the different projects we want to get in terms of what's the geological setting? Is it a project of merit? What's the chances of actually finding something? Of course, you still have to go do the work to actually find something, but does it have all the ingredients that gives you the best possible chance of actually achieving that goal? And so, we feel that bringing in the four projects that we have, we've been able to hit our mandate and hit our goals. And really looking forward to getting out there this field season and advancing all of these projects. Some of them, as we previously discussed, in stronger ways than others, but you know, you move certain projects forward harder and other ones slowly. And as I mentioned before, they end up all having their day in the sun at some point. And along the way, we're going to seek out you know, additional partnerships like we did with Rio Tinto. And if there's any way to create shareholder value and bring in strong partnerships like that, then we're going to do it for our shareholders.
Any eyes on more projects, or you're going to steer clear of being dubbed a prospect generator?
Yeah, you know what? I think that given Mike's background and his ability to find these projects, our you know, our ability to bring more on in the future is certainly a possibility. And I think that people will probably want to see that as we move through, and they see how you know, well we've been able to obtain these projects and the value that we're going to hopefully be able to create as we move forward with these. But for right now, these are our 4 projects, and we really want to see this Double Mer uranium project move forward in a major way in the next 12 months.
So, two more questions for you. One, I think a lot of people expect when they hear Canadian uranium that it's going to be Athabasca based. Uh, have you had to do a little education on the folks that you've been talking to on the bandwagon that it exists outside of the prairies?
Absolutely. You know, it does come up. I think that it's just something that you can't really avoid. You're right. Instantly, someone says uranium and they think Athabasca. You know, the problem is that they've been combing over Athabasca since, you know, the 1950s as an example, right? So, you know, you've got multitude of decades and major companies that are already in there that have picked over all the ground. There's really nothing left that you can obtain without paying top dollar. And then at the end of the day, it's sort of what are you hoping to find? It's super high grade, and that's fantastic. But if you only uncover, say, 60,000 pounds, it's, you know, what can you really do with that? I guess in terms of building on and creating a mine that has, you know, a 20-30 year mine life. I mean, we're uncovering a uranium project in a jurisdiction that is going to be lower grade, but it's high tonnage. You know, millions of pounds of uranium oxide is the goal in terms of what we hope to achieve. And we're not alone. You know, we didn't pick up this project in an area that is not known for uranium. We're just south of the central mineral belt, where Atha Energy just picked up Latitude and 92E projects, as well as Paladin and their Aurora Energy subsidiary that has the Michelin project. I mean, right within a 3 kilometer stint, they have about 127 million pounds of uranium oxide at just over 800 ppm. And so, yes, much lower than Athabasca, but the uranium is very much there. I mean, it's the exact reason why the Newfoundland and Labrador government had to put a moratorium on for those 3 years, because a massive influx of funding was coming into Labrador for the discovery of uranium. You know, probably 10, 20 different projects, numerous deposits being discovered, and they had to take a pause to see what was going on there. So it's very much there. It's high tonnage, low grade, but you know what? We're right on the coast. So in terms of you know, bringing this thing downstream and having a company come along sometime in the future and want to put it into production, we're right there to head out into the Atlantic Ocean and take it wherever it needs to go to be processed and sent for its real world applications with you know, nuclear reactors, small modular reactors. There's lots of prospectivity for it for sure.
I like the fact that you mentioned going to production a lot. Is that the plan, to go to production, not to sell it to a bigger fish, or you know, spread the love across the land?
Yeah, you know what? I think that our internal mandate is, and it's kind of something that I learned from someone that's been in the industry for a really long time, that you never want to sit on a project. You never want to assume that you've pushed the needle as far as you possibly can on a project and then just sit there and wait for someone to come knocking on your door. It doesn't usually lead to success. You want to continue to move a project along as if you're going to put it into production, and sure, reach out and make contacts and talk to all the right companies, and you know, maybe a suitor comes along, or maybe you're able to uncover a suitor and negotiate a deal to do that. But if you just sit there and wait, it doesn't really make any sense from a corporate standpoint. Your job is to continue to de-risk the project and move it as far along as you humanly possibly can. And at the end of the day, the money will be there if the deposit's there. And so we certainly could put it into production ourselves, but chances are with someone like Paladin in the area and just some of the other major companies out there like Cameco and things like that that need to keep bolstering their reserves, there's potentially a suitor in the future. But step one, we got to uncover that resource and project forward. So that's
Right.
our goal here.
Got it. So the coming out with an IPO now, obviously there's going to be every incentive to have strong news flow out of the gate, and to keep people compelled to hold that stock and
Yeah.
buy more. So exploration of that uranium project is the plan one. Are there any other things that people should be looking out for?
Yeah, as I mentioned, like we are going to be getting out there and visiting all of our projects this year. There's just standard things that you have to do from a claims maintenance standpoint to maintain that ownership of the claims year over year. And so we certainly will be touching ground on each one. It's just the amount of time, the level of work that you do, the number of samples that you take. That's just going to be the difference between the different projects. So as I mentioned, the Double Mer Uranium project will see the majority of the funding, but we will touch on all the other projects and move each one just a little bit further, which again I think just helps build shareholder value, because even though say you're not going to do a drill program right away on one of them, when it comes time to being able to pivot and garner the level of funding required to do that, you've already moved it to the point where you can make it drill ready, just a little bit slower than the other one.
For sure. How much cash are you coming out the gate with?
In terms of what's in treasury right now or post IPO?
Post IPO.
Post IPO, with the funds that we have right now, with the funds that will be coming in from our deal with Rio Tinto and then the IPO, at minimum, we're looking at about $3.5 million. We are doing our IPO at 40 cents with a half warrant at 60 cents for 24 months. As well as a traditional flow through at 48 cents with the same half warrant at 60 cents for 24 months. And then we're doing a charity flow through with Pear Tree. The back end gets the same 40 cents though, with the half warrant at 60 cents for 24 months. So everything fully qualified under the prospectus. And if we can raise more funds than just the minimum 2.5 from the offering, then we'll certainly do so. At 40 cents, we don't feel that it's overly dilutive. And the more money that we can bring in, we can beef up our proposed drill program come this fall. So if we can extend that, like right now, Michael Garrigan's eyeing a 4,500 meter program, which would put about 32 holes on the property. But if we can increase that to 6,500, 7,500, it just means more holes that we can test that trend line. So
For sure.
that
So
would be it.
40 cents at 24 million or so shares out. What are you looking at, about 10 million, 11 million market cap? That's very reasonable for what you've got.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that if some people look at the projects and you go, okay, well, what are you going to do to advance it? But you kind of also have to take a look back. We have the benefit of all the data that was conducted on our Double Mer property. That if that wasn't spent, we would have to have obtained the level of funding and go do those items. Go get high resolution geophysics, radiometrics, do the samples ourselves. So, if we didn't already have this understanding of the trend line, we wouldn't be able to push the envelope and get into drilling as quickly as we're proposing to do right now. So you can't discount that historical information that's on the property and the money that's already been there. So yes, to your point, I think that with the 4 projects that we have and the level of understanding that we have on them, there's great value in there, and there's a lot of more value to be conducted over the next our programs over the next year here.
Well, as I see it, part of that value is the fact that you're actually going out there to do the work and that you're as far along as you are from the start.
Yeah.
To me, I see a lot of companies out there that, they hope that they can maybe drill 3 holes, and you're coming out the gates with a plan that goes much beyond that.
Absolutely.
Mike Steers, appreciate your time, man. And best of luck in the days leading up to the IPO. Do you have a rough sense of when it might be dropping?
Yeah, the hope is to launch here about mid-month, so coming up real soon, and then closing by the end of the month. That's our goal.
Beauty. Well, best of luck, and we'll talk again real soon.
Great, thanks, Chris. Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
man.